It's been a couple of days that the most anticipated plugin from Epic, Metahuman Animator, has been out. It had been announced in March 2023 at GDC and finally released at the dawn of summer. As many of you, I've been part of the early adopters of it, but I wasn't lucky enough to get it plug and play on the very first day, as some rockstar were, certainly due to a lack of in-depth technical knowledge of Unreal fundamentals. As I was going further in this crash test that drove me crazy for almost 5 days, I thought it might be a good idea to get back through every crash, hiccup, or mistake I could have been through and share it with those interested. Note that I may release it in French a bit later, but as the searches, replies, and clues might have been looked upon and found in English spoken forums or videos, and as English is native language for Unreal users, a first strike in English may be more interesting to start with. As a reminder, what is Metahuman Animator? As you're browsing here, you may have a clue, so I won't be long with it. Metahuman Animator for Unreal is a new version of the Metahuman plugin, filling the bridge between online Metahuman generator website from Epic, which you may find at metahuman.unrealengine.com, and a reshaped technology within Unreal Engine Editor to create a link between Epic generator of realistic-looking humans and a simplified face performance capture process pushed to a new boundary by the use of a simple iPhone to drive it. Let's dive in technical requirements. Metahuman for Unreal Engine plugin relies on a certain number of things you may take for granted, but you shouldn't forget when you jump over it. First thing, its technology is deeply integrated with Unreal Engine 5.2 technology. Plugin written documentation and website may announce 5.0 and 5.1 compatibility, but it will be limited to MeshtoMetahuman and other classic actions, and you won't be able to use Metahuman Animator new features under 5.2. Next, solid hardware is expected. Have a look at dedicated web documentation on dev.epicgames.com, which is filled with useful information as always with Epic. Get stuffed before you dive, unless you want to wait more, crash, die, and wait again. To be short, treatment relies on local processing, so you're expected to work with multiple logical cores from Intel i7 6000 series, but 12000 series are recommended, dedicated RAM for logical cores. You may encounter a number of warnings while working with less than 64 GB of RAM. And of course, modern RTX or AMD equivalent, allowing you to massive GPU calculations. Here again, NVIDIA 30 series and younger or AMD 6800 Plus are expected. Sorry Android users, but an iPhone is currently the only way to achieve capture protocol. iPhone X may be okay, but you'd better work with 12, 13 and younger. Metahuman capture technology is based on what Epic calls a 4D process, mixing video and iPhone camera true depth sensor, getting Z-depth information and pasting it over video image capture. Of course, if Unreal isn't installed yet, you may need around 40 GB of installation on local SSD hard drive and attached required plugins like Quixel and obviously Metahuman for Unreal. Think globally of 50 GB to get started and you're good to go. With Unreal Engine 5.2 installed, browse through the Epic Game Unreal Engine Lab section for Metahuman plugin in the marketplace. Get it free, then install it to the engine. Select Install on 5.2 and wait till it's downloaded and extracted. You may now click on your local library, raw engine versions 5.2 to check if the installation is properly achieved. If your 5.2 is already running, shut it down to complete the installation process. Now, launch your 5.2 version, check if the required plugins are connected, here Metahuman and Quixel. Clicking on Launch Engine 5.2, you may face an intriguing prerequisites, in French, conditions requises, message, blocking you to further actions. This means probably you have to check out firewalls and antivirus configurations. Particularly, Windows 11 is equipped with an opaque system against viruses and threats, and you may sometimes not receive instant notification of a software being blocked and have to go through Windows Security Center and find in virus threats a protection history showing Unreal Editor or Epic Games Launcher.exe marked as protected folder access blocked. You'll have to click on to authorize it to your device. Many users reported they didn't get any notice and got stuck with this message. It happened to me a couple of times in the installation of 5.0, 5.1 and 5.2. Sometimes a reboot was necessary, sometimes it wasn't. Anyway, a visit to security center should resolve the issue. Do I have to install this good old Metahuman sample project? Short answer, no. I did the test with and without the sample project previously released. The new plugin got everything packed with, and these yellow on black rigging trackers you want to play with are embedded, so you can spare yourself downloading around 6 GB. And start with a fresh new project with the best name you want to give to, and download your own Metahumans from the online app later. Where to start? You can build on an existing project or here again on a blank canvas. Keep in mind that the plugin is still an experimental version, and as always with betas, play around and get secured before even thinking to paste your fresh creations to an existing production value content. You can launch a new 5.2 engine start template, choose a name you're comfortable to work with, and complete. Here we go with Metahuman Test 52 with a blank template. It's a good idea to keep ray tracing enabled to get the results as nice as possible when going further in your test. Reflections, lumen, real-time character lightning, etc. Next, plugins activation. To start, you'll need a couple of plugins in order to make all things working with Metahuman in Unreal Engine. First, let's open Plugins window. In the upper bar, search for Metahuman. If you don't see it, bad news, plugin didn't install correctly. You'll have to troubleshoot why. Maybe installation was done on the wrong UE engine version. Check in Epic Store level configuration information and proceed if necessary. It happened to me that installation info at engine level was unable to be found. In this case, search for plugins at Windows Program Files, Epic Games, or your custom Unreal installation locations. Then plugin to manually delete the plugin. Close Unreal and Epic Store, download it once more and reinstall it on adequate version. If you see Metahuman version 2.0.0 by Epic Games, you win. Click on the left to activate the plugin. You'll be prompted to restart to activate plugin. Don't do it now. We'll have to tweak a couple additional things. Still in the upper plugins bar, look for Livelink. We'll get back to Livelink a bit later, but to explain, Livelink is a technology needed to communicate between Unreal and external technology, in our case, the iPhone. Note that activating just Livelink is okay. The other Livelink something plugins won't be required for this project, at least for what you need here. Apple plugins. There's a couple of plugins that may help to get rid of unexpected issues with video decoding, face recognition and reading that rely on Apple technology. So here's a short list to activate in case of situation regarding iPhone video output decoding. They are Apple ARKit, ARKit Face Support, and Apple ProRes Media. Electra Player. It might be a good idea to activate Electra Player. I haven't been in depth through the technology, but as a next-gen video player, it also may resolve hardware acceleration video decoding. I found myself facing blank texture rendering instead of video display, and activating Electra Player was part of the solution to display iPhone videos back in image treatment. And that's all for plugins. Now let's go to project settings. For multiple reasons, you may face rendering and performance issues whenever starting your Metahuman project. Keep in mind that Unreal 5.2 technologies are tied together and some basics should be respected. DirectX 12 is a must-go, and you'll need it to work smoothly with your Metahuman project. If you face rendering issues, have a look at your Rendering Hardware Interface or RHI. You'll find it in Project Settings, Platform, Windows. Shader Model 6 should be enabled too as a renderer for D3D12, and targeted RHI should be assigned whether to default better to DirectX 12. Vulkan API seems working in many Unreal configurations, but DirectX 12 is still currently the leading player. If you face DirectX issues, you may check your installation running Windows R CMD run program, type dxdiag, and check your DirectX current version. If you're running DirectX 11 for some reason, like an antique Windows installation or deprecated drivers, consider refreshing your setup, grab new drivers, update through Windows Update or online driver installations, and migrate to DX12. Then IMG Media cache. Media cache options will be essential to image processing, so prepare your Unreal setup to be solicited by adding additional cache volume. Navigate always in project settings to plug in IMG Media. First, consider your default frame rate to be consistent throughout your project. Here, I was going to playback at 24 frames per second from a former feature film project, but I will stick to 60 here, the same as on the iPhone Livelink Capture app. Keep in mind that 30 FPS may be adequate for many projects, but for performance testing purpose, sticking to 60 is still better. Caching options are very important to look upon in order to stream and withstand the whole heavy image processing. By default, caching options are cache behind percentage to 25%, cache size and matching global cache size to 2 GB, number of cache threads to 8. You can push cache threads to be used to 0 and will get all the available threads to work harder. And increase cache size value in gigabytes. 2 did the job for me, but in case you need it, try progressively to double value to 4 to get it stronger in case it's insufficient. At this point, with all these settings okay, you may restart Unreal to apply all changes. Next step, connecting and ingesting video data. Metahuman plugin 2.0 comes packed with new workflow assets. To start performance capture, we'll need 4 of them: capture source, capture data, the footage, Metahuman Identity or MHI, and Metahuman Performance or MHP. You'll work with 2 new windows in the process: Capture Manager and the Metahuman Identity Solver we'll see a bit later. Now it's time to get your iPhone open, get the Livelink Face app from the App Store if you still don't have it, or get it updated if it's not on the latest version. At opening, you'll be prompted to select between ARKit solution or Metahuman Animator. Choose the second one. In Unreal Content Browser, in your main content folder, create a Metahuman test folder or any name you're comfortable with, and in the right-click menu, create new Metahuman capture source. You'll give a clear name to. Connection should be established to Livelink Face connection for capturing real time, or archives if you plan to work with pre-recorded footage. Stereo HMC footage is another third case when using head-mount stereo camera configuration that won't be covered here. Then, check your network connections. Your iPhone and Unreal install settings have to be on the same network. Many setup issues of regular Livelink or Metahuman Animator configurations come from this point. Check PC, Wi-Fi versus Ethernet connection. Wi-Fi and Ethernet may coexist on a single machine, and one may take over the second. Check your network parameters to see whether you're using wireless or wired network. You may find additional information on Windows R CMD. To open command line and check network by typing ipconfig. A bunch of configuration and IP address with scroll, and you can check your local IP. Usually you run over 192.168 something, meaning you're on a local network. Check if the iPhone is on the same, for example 192.168.1.05 for the PC and 1.06 for the iPhone. Depending on your home or office network setup, you might find up to 1.480 and up above. If you're comfortable with network configurations on your router, you might build DHCP rules to assign a fixed local IP to each machine based on their MAC signature. So they won't change their local IP numbers anymore, and you won't have to change them in your Unreal configuration later. If you're using both Ethernet and Wi-Fi on your computer, it may be easier to disable temporarily your Ethernet and set it back when you end your Unreal session. To do so, go in your Windows Network Center, go to Advanced Network Settings and disable Ethernet Active Connection to keep only Wi-Fi adapter working. Then check your iPhone Wi-Fi parameters the same way to be sure you're on the same network as your Unreal installation. In the application parameters, you can tweak target frame rate if you face performance or file transfer issues, and slow it down to 30 and match your project settings parameters. You can also preview true depth video feedback, file format name, etc. Most important here is to check that the OSC server is enabled on your iPhone. It will be the bridge to communicate between Livelink to the iPhone. If both machines don't communicate, you may want to check in Unreal plugins if UDP messaging is enabled. It seems that it's a default configuration for UE 5.2, but for any reason it might be off. It may be a good idea to check, as UDP is a way information data is sent through the OSC protocol. Check in Capture Source Detail panel that the IP assigned matches the one on your iPhone and OSC server IP parameters, in my case ending on 1.36. Control port is normally auto-assigned. You shouldn't have issue with it unless your iPhone is heavily or remotely protected, like by your company administrator, for example. Now, both devices should communicate properly. You can open the new Capture Manager window in Tools, Capture Manager. Your iPhone as a capture source should appear on the left with a green light, meaning connection is live. If it's not, check once more this point. Livelink Face app is running and open on the iPhone. Wi-Fi is still up on the phone and PC. Anyway, if you want to quit iPhone Livelink app, you'll be asked to keep it live for treatment purposes. If you've already recorded a test sequence, refresh connection to see pre-recorded media. If nothing is available, start recording now. Now, to feed Unreal with good footage and give it the correct information to work with, the program will need a couple of pauses to interpret the visual and depth information correctly. Have your image correctly exposed, not too dark nor too bright. Have these pauses in order to calibrate your visual DNA. Face neutral, semi-left neutral, semi-right neutral, and a last pause for your teeth calibration. Once you've recorded, refresh and check you're using the correct slate number from your video, add it to the queue, and once it's pushed to the right, import it. Treatment time may vary depending on your connection, target frame rate, and video quality. Usually, 30 seconds to 1 minute is correct for sending calibration video to Unreal. Now, let's create your new identity or MHI. Go to the content browser in your Metahuman folder and create a new right-click Metahuman Animator, Metahuman Identity. Give it a clear name too. For me, for example, Paul_MHI. This identity will be unique. You can start a new one with other footage, but this one is your digital DNA for Metahuman. Thing to save before a possible crash. Note that if it's your first time with this new plugin, you'll have to log in to Epic in order to continue. Now double-click your MHI and in the upper bar, select Create Component and From Footage. Your imported last take should appear here in the drop-down menu. If it doesn't, check in your Capture Manager if the last import was successful. If not, repeat previous step to import your footage, add it to the queue, import it, and check its flag as succeeded. Okay, so assign the uploaded footage. It might take a while before images are interpreted. On the left-hand side, Default Tracker should be assigned to Generic Face Contour Tracker and Target to your footage. In the main frame, you should see a video playback of your face. I had some issues here with a dark blue texture placeholder instead of the video. See sooner points in the video about DX12 rendering or consider enabling Electra or Apple ProRes Player in order to correct this problem. With video OK, you have now two timelines under the playback. First is depth, second is video. Both informations are processed to create your digital MHI identity. You can scroll through, verify that you got your whole video capture with the 3 poses and teeth. Don't forget to create a body to have your head attached to something in order to create the metahuman a bit later. Choose a good picture, facing the lens, with your first neutral pose and click the plus sign to promote it as front view, click OK. Trackers will be added upon your face based on the plugin calculations. You can zoom with the middle mouse wheel and move with right button. Click on the camera icon to release camera and go to find your next image. Look for a correct angle where you should see eyes, nose, cheeks and mouth completely and promote it to your next side view. Release once more, then act the same the opposite side of your face. And you're done with your neutral poses. Click Metahuman Identity Solve to start processing of your face. Here again, depending on your hardware, it may take up to a minute to get it done. Then finish solving your mesh by using MeshtoMetahuman command and auto-rig identity, skeletal plus full metahuman. Once done, you can add a new pose by selecting your MHI in the upper left, then add pose and teeth. Navigate through your frames, select your best teeth pose, and promote it with the plus button. Your teeth will be added to the mesh. Edit slightly if needed, then click fix teeth to fix your teeth mesh upon existing mesh. You'll be notified Unreal is finalizing Metahuman Identity. In the ultimate step, in order to transform our face scan into a performance asset, let's get back to the content browser. Inside a Metahuman Performance folder, right-click Metahuman Animator, Metahuman Performance, and name it using a unique identifier again. Double-click to open, and inside the Performance Editor, assign a previously captured video to footage capture data, the timeline should display, and your custom MHI to the Metahuman Identity, adding your skeletal mesh to the right. Select a frame range to be processed with a start and an endpoint. Then click the Process button in the upper left. Treatment is shown in real time, and this time short enough. Then finally, you can export it as an animation or a level sequence. A few additional options allow you to enable or disable head movement, expand animation range, and edit target skeleton, etc. Back to the editor, you can see the new animation sequence you've just created from the processed MHP. And voila, your mesh is complete. Your face identity is now solved as a reference for upcoming performance capture. And the gap between classic Livelink and new Metahuman Animator performance capture quality is quite huge in terms of lifelikeliness, even though it's not perfect. You can find back everything you created in your content browser inside your Metahuman folder. As a reminder, we created through this video a device capture profile, some capture data with video files, a Metahuman Identity or MHI, a new Metahuman skeletal mesh, also available at metahumans.unrealengine.com, and a first performance as a reference, also recorded as MHP for Metahuman Performance. I'll try soon to get the same tutorial in French for friends and students and cover retargeting, subject replacement, and performance mocap in narrative topics. I hope those points may have helped you to solve some issues in the setup of a new Metahuman 2.0 plugin. You can add points or questions I may have forgotten in comments. I will try my best to answer. Enjoy animating and see you.